Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast where the truth is stranger than fiction. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Welcome back to another edition of the Right Guys podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling, Max. Do you feel like the truth is stranger than fiction these days? I mean, every time I'm looking at the internet, the news, the cycle that's going out, I'm like, I can't write this stuff. If this was a reality TV show, it'd be nothing but drama, right? If this was a some sort of fictional show, like House of Cards or something like that, it would be an incredible storyline. But here it is; it's all real, and it's all happened in like the last month. I mean, what was on your scorecard or your bingo card for just the month of December, right?
Oh, yeah.
Aliens in the sky. I mean,
we're on the brink today, right now. We're actually watching for this. Donald Trump might have just trolled the Canadian Prime Minister into resigning.
Is that after the
Donald Trump's
the annex talk?
Where he said, if you can't survive without bilking the American taxpayers, maybe you should just be the 51st state. Apparently, that has created a crisis in Canada, talking about trade wars. The finance minister resigned today. And apparently, the lone ally that Trudeau had left in Parliament is now saying, are you going to resign? Are you going to go? Donald Trump might have just trolled the Canadian Prime Minister into resigning. We are so back. We are so back.
Man, he's not even in office, right? He's not even on day one yet. He's on day negative 30 to go, right? 27, whatever the number might be. But he's not even in the offices, and he's already scaring people into stuff, Max. I mean, there was almost like Middle East peace the next day. We saw it.
Yeah.
And is it because Biden was weak, or is it because Biden was part of the plan the whole time? That's something I'm gonna forever struggle with.
Yeah.
You know?
Here's I don't know Canadian politics, but apparently there's a gentleman by the name of Singh, and he leads the NDP, which is the party. And now he is calling on Trudeau to resign. Trudeau has got to go. Apparently he was one of the last allies that Trudeau had. How wonderful would that be? No, I do not want updates from Global News. How amazing would that be if Donald Trump trolled Canada's Prime Minister into resigning?
Oh, it would be one of those award moments. I'd have to come up with a T-shirt for something like that, right? Yeah. And if all it takes is a couple of tweets from Donald Trump to make stuff happen to our closest neighbor, imagine what's going to happen when he's actually in the office, right? Oh, imagine what happens when he's at the wheel. So it's a strong move. It shows you how weak or how frightened Canada is of the United States just kind of kicking them to the economic curve, right?
Well,
I wonder.
The idea that Canada thinks they could win a trade war against us.
Yeah.
Canada has a military. They have a navy. Sure.
Sure.
They rely on the United States for their own collective security. Canada's security is primarily achieved through NATO membership, right? And in response to Donald Trump threatening to go to a trade war and cut off Canada, some in Canada were saying, okay, well, we're going to tariff uranium. We're going to tax uranium and stop U.S. from buying uranium. Canada exists because they live under the United States nuclear arsenal umbrella, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that say about your ally? That you're going to withhold the very fissionable material that your ally uses to, in part at least, keep you safe.
It doesn't make any sense. And you look at their economy and how closely it's tied to everything that we do here. And do they really think they want to fight that fight? I don't think they'd have. They obviously they don't want to get into it because they're calling for the resignation, right? Trudeau's got to go. Hey, ho, ho. Yeah. Trudeau has got to go. I see the picket signs starting to pick up out front of his residence, right? We'll see what happens. But it all came from a tweet.
Yeah, Donald Trump's outswing. It was a tweet and a dinner. He said at dinner, a table full of people. That's where it started, and then it came out as a rumor. He said, "Yeah, this is true," and he tweeted out. Donald Trump's back. We are so back. I don't know if you watched any of the press conference today. We're gonna get into that. I have a couple clips from that. So hit that share button. Give us a thumbs up, like, comment wherever you're finding us, whatever channel you're finding us. We also have the audio edition of the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to that. Available everywhere you can find audio podcasts. We try and make this as audio friendly as possible so you can listen as you go about your day if you can't watch. Heartbreaking news. We're not going to cover it too much, but out of Wisconsin. I get chills every time I see this, especially every time you see stuff about Christian schools. My kids go to a Christian school.
Yeah.
You see these attacks on Christian schools. You have to wonder whether there is some kind of anti-Christian animus behind it.
It's hard to figure out when they withhold manifestos in previous shootings, right? They've gone out of their way to hide evidence that might suggest that Christians aren't the ones causing the domestic terrorism, they're the victims of it.
Yeah.
And we see it again today that a Christian, and now details are still scarce. It's been trickling out. I've been watching the press conference with the sheriff. It's tough to watch anytime somebody does that, man. But
so the shooter is reportedly among the dead. Shooter off himself. Here is, I don't know if this is the police commissioner or whatnot, but this gentleman is afraid to say whether the shooter was male or female. Actually refers to the shooter as it. I guess in fear of misgendering them. Here we go.
Weapons.
That is correct.
Correct.
Let's follow that one question.
I don't know if it's a male or female, but the police department did not fire their weapons. Thank you.
Wow.
That is something that is the first thing that comes out over 911 calls. There's a gun. There's a shooter. Okay.
Yeah.
Describe the shooter. Young male, young female.
Yeah.
Brown hair, right? That's the first thing that comes out. First thing.
Has to. Yeah.
First thing. Because then when you find the shooter dead, you either kill the shooter or find the shooter self-inflicted. You have to know whether that's the shooter. You can't just walk up to someone and say, "Oh, that must have been the shooter." You have to verify with the people who called it in. Is this the man you called in? Is this the woman? Because if they say no, that means there's another shooter. So you cannot clear the building. You cannot give anyone an all clear unless you verify, does the shooter match the description that was called in or not? And the shooter's dead. And I don't know if this is him genuinely not having enough information about it or trans nonsense of saying at this point we cannot confirm. Well, guess what? You're never going to confirm. The shooter's dead.
Yeah.
Their feelings don't matter. Are they biologically male, biologically female? Very simple. Those are things that come out in every shooting, Josh.
I know. And think
every
about the
shooting
pieces.
Except this one. And the last one.
And the talk will be, we missed a few things. Their social posts will probably be up there. As soon as the person's identified, they're going to start looking at the evidence that's out there, right? And there might be videos. And do they have a letter on them? Or is this just a random shooting? We never find out because we're never given the details, especially when there's ambiguity of the shooter, right? And we've seen the playbook before. Hide as much information as you can. And the goal is to not paint certain groups in a negative light. And there is radicalism on both sides. Gang, the radicalism showed up to a Christian school today and shot two others in themselves. And again, the FBI is busy going after J6ers and
Catholics,
domestic terrorism.
Catholics,
they're going after Catholics hard, yeah.
Yeah, if they like receiving Eucharist on the tongue instead of in their hands. Oh, domestic terrorist.
But they're not looking at social posts from somebody who might have like a trans grudge on their shoulder, right? That chip on their shoulder to go after people that wronged them. And often we see that this person was ridiculed and mocked. And who knows if there's a connection to the people here, right? I mean, there's so many things we're going to probably not know right away or at all And I'm citing that we're not going to know 90% of this.
There are some rules. They're not always like this. Sometimes they change this. It depends on what kind of identity they want to protect, right? If a mass shooter is white, you know immediately.
Yeah.
It's front and center.
Yeah. Yeah.
If a mass shooter is black or Hispanic, oftentimes that doesn't even make the news.
Which is wild.
Which is insane. If a mass shooter is trans, they will do everything in their power to cover that up. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of trans people out there who are fine people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's true with every group of people out there. There are many good people in the world. But we gotta, this one aside, this shooting aside, we don't know a whole lot about this perpetrator. But just knowing what we already know, something's going on. And I don't think it's crazy to suspect that it has to do with the ideology, that it has to do with cross-sex hormones that by very biological definition can cause rage. Like, I mean, like, you give a girl testosterone, what do you think is going to happen? You deprive a boy of testosterone, what do you think is going to happen? You get very angry. So we got to figure this out. But the longer it takes for them to tell us who did this, the more likely that person is of some gender, race, ethnicity, some kind of class that the left has deemed worthy of protecting in all circumstances.
And the one thing that keeps coming to mind is that Christians are attacked again.
Yeah.
Worldwide, Christians are under attack everywhere. The freedom of religion is under attack in every facet of American culture, business. I mean, when's the last time you saw a really good Christian show? There's a few that started to come out on Fox News, right? And then some of those Fox things, because they put out the Saints recently, and then Mary. So they but everything else is under attack, right? To be Christian is almost counterculture at this point.
I saw news. Let me see what show it was. There was a show that came out that mocked the nativity. Had a Christmas nativity scene. They mocked it. I mean, it's very clear why they do this. It's very clear the contempt they have for Christians. We know that more than Americans know that just as much as everyone.
And the only friends that seem to understand it are my Jewish friends, because they've dealt with it their whole lives, right? And it's really interesting to feel and see once you start putting yourself in other people's shoes about being, demonized for just your religion. I mean, it's nothing that you put on a resume, right? It's nothing that people wear on their sleeves like they used to. And that's the thing, man. Christians are constantly under attack, and here's another example of it. And it's usually sort of a left-wing extreme group that does it. So why keep hiding it? And why is the playbook the same? Hide it. Why did they give them that protected status? Who calls these shots? It's Madison, Wisconsin. They went pretty much 50-50 in the last election, but they've been super liberal in Wisconsin for a long, long time too. I mean, the universities.
Oh yeah, no, that part of Wisconsin is very left. Donald Trump won Wisconsin, but not because of this area of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Not at all. So we'll keep watching. There's not a lot, but I am noticing, like when you look at other school shootings, that the media is very quick to refer to the gunman, the shooter, as a he, because that information gets out very early. For whatever reason, maybe it's just erring on the side of caution. Maybe they need to go back and read this person's diaries to see how they identified. Who knows? They seem to be very deliberately referring to this shooter in non-gendered language at all. So we'll see.
Yeah, sad day. Pray for everybody. And let's never say their name. I mean, but we probably won't know a thing.
Yeah.
We're going to be in the dark. 3 months from now, they're going to start trickling it out, drip by drip by drip by drip.
If we don't know by the end of the day, then they are deliberately hiding something.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
God, I can't believe we got to talk about it like that. You know what I mean? That's the sick part. Freaking government.
I know.
Oh,
I know. But we talk about information, misinformation. There is some good news on the horizon. So the GEC, part of the Department of State, the Global Engagement Center, is set to run out of funding on December 23rd, 24th, right before Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Now, this was set up in 2016 after the Russia interfered in our elections. Under Trump, it was given a very measly budget. I want to say it was like a few $1 million a year. Under Biden, that budget ballooned. I want to say 1 year they got over $100 million.
oh my gosh.
And it was obviously born in bullshit of Russia didn't interfere in our 2016 election. The American people just didn't want Hillary Clinton to be president, wanted Donald Trump to be president. We know that Russian bot farms, troll farms did things, but it's not anything I wasn't doing. Like, I remember going on the Donald on Reddit. I was a moderator, and I remember laughing at some of the memes that have since been attributed to a Russian troll farm. That doesn't mean they weren't funny memes, right?
I know. They mean better than Democrats.
But like the idea that you can't meme if you're abroad and share it with Americans is bogus, right? Now, that's one thing. It's another thing for a foreign government to literally spend money, foment dissent within the United States, because that's ultimately what Russia was trying to do. Meanwhile, we were all just laughing at the memes. So the GEC was set up to try and prevent that, to identify that, and to minimize propaganda efforts abroad, how they are trying to basically not brainwash, but affect national discourse here in the United States. Where the GEC went terribly, terribly wrong under Joe Biden is that they began coordinating with big tech companies to censor anyone they deemed to be connected to foreign propaganda.
That was a conspiracy theory. That wasn't true.
No, that happened. They bragged about it, right? You cannot get something from RT, Russia Today, to trend on Facebook. You cannot see something organically on Facebook about RT. You have to search. Even Twitter, it's hard to find. It's hard to find anything about RT on Twitter. You have to actually search for it. And so I'm seeing this story. I'm saying, yeah, it's going to close down. What if we stop it and we fix it? We make it actually promote American interests, right? And stop true anti-Americanism, not use it as a form of censorship. So I figured I should look and see what RT is saying about this, because they were one of the primary targets of this.
Yeah, they were.
State Department program.
Yeah.
So I did grab a clip of it. Let's go ahead and watch a little bit.
The U.S. State Department is facing the shutdown of its unit that had tried to combat alleged disinformation. That's after Republican Congress members refused to keep funding the department that's been critical of many conservatives. The so-called Global Engagement Center has been targeted by a lawsuit from media outlets that say the unit forced American tech companies to downrank their reports. Billionaire businessman and Trump ally Elon Musk has also accused the Center of Censorship and Media Manipulation.
Do you see how they're using? So some of this is true.
Yeah.
Right? But do you see how they are promoting this story to rile up conservatives?
Sure.
That this is just another part of the censorship against conservatives. You should be against it, right? They don't want to say be against it so that Russian propaganda can get back into the United States. They're saying be against it because if you don't look out, they're going to censor you too. It's very it's
brilliant.
It's very intelligently done.
Yeah.
Taking a news story that really doesn't affect Americans. Like, you can get this content, it's just not going to organically, like, virally find its way to you. Like, RT is still accessible online. I think you still get it in some cable packages. You can still get it. It's not banned. It's just can't reach you right away. So let's see who they
Interesting.
bring on as an expert.
The incumbent Democrats, however, are pushing to allocate another $100 million to the department before
So
the Republicans
they
take
must be bringing
power
on some
next
congressmen as an
month.
expert.
The outgoing administration has invested heavily in so-called anti-misinformation campaigns. The Biden government reportedly spent a total of $267 million.
A little bit of truth in good propaganda, right?
Now, this is where they show this to a conservative, and you get pissed.
Yeah. Oh,
How dare
yeah.
they do this? How dare they do
Absolutely.
this? They're getting you riled up when really they want this gone so that RT can get back in your news feed.
Newsfeed. You bet.
Not for this story, but for every other story. Every other story where every story about America is bad. And that's
Dude.
not from our perspective. Like, we talk about the problems in America all the time, but that's because we want to fix those problems. Russia Today talks about America's problems because they want to dismantle America. They want us gone. They want us gone.
Oh, just unbelievable. I mean, this is like state level propaganda, dude. Like, this is, and there's kernels of truth in it, right?
Yeah.
To get people all, it's brilliant. Like, it's a
Very
masterclass.
skillfully-
Yeah.
Very skillfully done, weaving a Russian propaganda interest piece into conservative anti-censorship. Again, I'm very interested to see who they bring on as their expert.
Taxpayer
It's
funds
RT. Who
to
they
that
gonna get?
end.
It's gotta be a
In
congressman.
contrast, the first Trump presidency allocated
Elon
about
Musk?
40 times less on the same front.
It's still a lot of
Let's
money.
cross live to Joe Altman, host of the Conservative Daily podcast. Many thanks.
We just went through this thing. It is
Yeah.
condemning America. It is weaving this narrative into conservative stories so that RT can get back to trending on social platforms. And I guess the top of the speed dial on who's going to condemn America and who's going to help prop up Russian propaganda is apparently our old boss,
Boss Joe
Altman.
Joe Altman, huh? In Denver, Colorado. In the comments section. There's
Comment section's going off.
Yeah, I was just gonna show that one. I mean, my God. Oh man. So,
Josh, turn down your RTX a little bit. It's
All right.
freaking out when you laugh. You just laugh so loud. It just
dude. Yeah. Sorry, I'll turn
Yeah.
that noise suppressor down.
I-
Holy crap.
I was looking for this story because it's like, oh, it's Doge. Let's cut spending, right? And I'm like, oh, I wonder what RT is gonna do. And Josh, I almost spit out my drink, and I wasn't even drinking anything.
So let me get this straight. When RT needs to go to a person in America to talk about
A conservative America is willing
Okay.
to criticize America.
They go to Joe O.
Yeah.
He's on the top of the list on the speed dial. Do you think he's like top or maybe one or two down? Like,
I don't know. He's on there a lot. I was pulling a lot of videos. He's on there a lot.
on RT? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, this is
He's
really
on
interesting.
Pretty frequently. Listen, good for him. He's getting a little exposure.
Yeah.
I don't know how much Northern Siberia is going to fax blast Congress, but hey, maybe.
Right?
Before we criticize, let's
Let's listen, see what he has to
He's
say.
their expert, by the way.
Thanks for joining us. It's nice to see you. So, such huge spending on what the
Gonna say right off the bat, Joe, you need better lighting.
Yeah.
That's something me and Josh tried
Yes.
to help you with. I have 4 lights on me.
Yeah.
I'm backlit, I'm top lit, and I'm front lit. You gotta have better lighting. It looks like
Yeah.
you're in a Pakistani cave.
Yeah, and the microphone makes it sound that way too, which God bless. I hope he's not being held against his will. I mean, he is on RT.
We don't know. Maybe he's I don't know. Who knows?
Biden administration claims to be fighting disinformation. So, just how successful has it been in your view?
Well, I don't believe that the disinformation is the problem. It's the information that they're censoring they're stating is disinformation that is the problem. The 260 million or 270 million that they'll spend is a small piece of what they've actually spent. If you look at the budgets for the FBI and some of the other intelligence agencies that also were putting pressure on media, advertisers, and big tech companies in order to take away the ability for people to speak their minds. It's antithetical to our First Amendment, but more importantly, it looks at what the narrative is and what this propaganda has done in order to hurt the country and divide our nation over the last 4 years.
Yeah, some people are asking, is this really about disinformation or more about censorship and partisan meddling, as claimed by Elon Musk, for example?
Oh,
Well, it definitely is a partisan ideology that has kind of infected our society, and politics have been the way that they've described things to happen in our communities, that they need to drive towards a specific ideology. Unfortunately, that aligns with things like the World Economic Forum and some other, you'd say, globalist organizations, including the UN.
All the organizations he's named, Russia hates. You know what? This feels like, you ever like have a friend or a family member and you're talking with your other friends and family members and you're like, oh man, I can't stand them. They're an asshole, right? I don't want them anywhere. But the minute someone outside your friend group or outside your family criticizes that person, like, whoa, you can't, that's my family. Only I can talk bad about my family. Only I. You can't do that. That's what this kind of feels like. It's one thing to go on American news, American podcast, and say that there is an infection within government. It is another thing to go on RT International. RT International is Russia's English language propaganda outlet.
yeah.
It doesn't just go to the United
Yeah.
States. It goes to every country on earth.
Yeah.
This is the tip of the spear for Russia convincing everyone on earth that America's bad. And
It's,
the very pointy tip of that spear apparently is Joe Holtman. I mean, it's crazy.
right. Joe is now essentially the representative of the world through RT News about
How bad America is.
yeah. And I never thought that would be there, because I remember when the Conservative Daily first started, it was all pro-America. America first, America that. And I don't know, once the war in Ukraine started, he's been on RT a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, that's why I'm not there anymore. I quit after that because it got really weird. It was like as soon as Russia invaded Ukraine, it was like, it was just immediately Joe's like, oh, Russia's right. I remember just being like, well,
What?
talk to me. It was like, oh,
yeah.
Zelensky's a pedo, whatever he's saying.
Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible. They're Satanists. I'm like, okay, show me. And they can never show me anything. And I'm just like, okay, well, Russia good is a weird place to fall automatically. I'm not locked into the Cold War or anything myself.
Yeah.
It's still a weird place just to fall.
I
got dragged into the New York Times with him, which wasn't fun.
You poor son of a gun.
Yeah. I remember, though, I distinctly remember right before I left, and this is part of the reason why I got left, or you want to say they forced me out, because for the first time in 8 years, Joe and Greg exercised editorial control on what I could say. First time.
Yeah.
First time ever. Like, no, you can't say that. It was talking about the biolabs. They were big into the biolabs.
Oh, that's right. That was a big deal.
Biolabs, yeah. And I remember talking to them about it and like, did you know that there are biolabs in Ukraine that are studying anthrax? Anthrax? And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. Why is that, do you think? They're like, oh, it's weaponized. It took me 5 minutes to research that Ukraine has some of the worst natural outbreaks of anthrax, equine anthrax, bovine anthrax, anywhere in the world. Like, anthrax is naturally occurring, and it's very common where it is prevalent for livestock to get it and to pass it on to people.
Yeah.
I mean, it was recently as 2018, they had like 5 or 6 human cases of anthrax naturally occurring. So I remember telling him, like, Joe, this is why they're doing this. They're studying it. And he's like, no, that's not what they're doing. And I explained it to him. I said, Joe, it's kind of like how here in Colorado, because that's where I lived at the time, it's kind of like how the University of Colorado studies bubonic plague because it's naturally occurring in the prairie dogs. And every now and then, a dog will drag a prairie dog into someone's house and give that family bubonic plague. The University of Colorado isn't studying the plague to weaponize it. They're studying the plague because it's naturally occurring in the environment, and it's important to study it so you can combat it. That didn't help.
No, because I remember it turning into a thing, and it just went on from there. And it was, you know, to go on the largest mouthpiece propaganda in the world to espouse your opinions, and like there are agents throughout the world who run propaganda for other governments. It happens. We have agents everywhere trying to put out propaganda, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Propaganda.
Yeah, absolutely we do. And we have people behind it. We have news now. I mean, you can see that the Democrats pretty much own MSNBC and CNN, right? I mean, it's been happening a long time. But when you start appearing on your foreign adversaries' propaganda networks,
you know who's going to be running our propaganda starting in January?
Who?
Kari Lake is running the official American propaganda arm.
Oh, I can't wait to see what she does.
So we have propaganda, but everyone knows it's propaganda, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of radio interviews because I want to get back into this. I did that before I saw this. I want to get back into this, like doing commentary and stuff like that. So I'm doing radio, pitching TV. I research everywhere I go on. Say, like, is this person good? Is it good to be on this show? Is this going to be helpful, not hurtful? I don't understand how he got into this. Like, I am Russian Today's anti-American correspondent. I don't know how he fell into this little niche that doesn't feel like something you accidentally fall into, because no matter what they say the story's about, you know, in the producers meeting before this airs, they're saying, okay, we need to be able to get our propaganda into America. We need to convince Americans that's good. Who do we turn to? And the associate producer in the back said, I got Altman. I think he can read what we give him. That's happening. And it's crazy.
I never thought I'd see the day. I mean, it was such a pivot from America First to, well, Russia's right.
Yeah.
And what do you say? Does he have an agent that's like, let's put you on RT? Well, what's his producer saying?
I think the agent would have at least got him a ring light. I just don't know.
I don't know, man.
I don't know how you, like, for all.
Well, where he went, we couldn't follow.
Yeah.
Where he went, we couldn't follow.
For all of them, call them faults, flaws, or just agree to disagree, whatever. For all those, Joe isn't dumb. He has a good head on his shoulders.
He's brilliant,
smart.
man. Mm-hmm. You bet he is.
Like, I don't know how he doesn't see what they're using him for. And it runs so counter to the organization that I helped grow for 8 years.
Hey,
it's shocking. It's shocking how counter. That would be like if I woke up tomorrow, Josh, and I was the spokesperson for like BLM, or I was the spokesperson for Antifa.
Right. The Pro-Abortion Association of America, right? Like that would be a complete 180.
Parenthood's new spokesperson. It would make zero sense. I don't know what to think about it. And I don't want to spread any conspiracy theories on why I think this is happening, but it is very strange. And it doesn't seem like it's not a natural fit. But I did even more digging, Josh.
No.
And I'll have you know that on November 5th, Joe Altman was part of their election coverage as well.
Learn more and cross live now to Joe Altman, host of the Conservative Daily podcast, now joining us here during our special election coverage on RT. Joe, a very warm welcome to you. I know you're having a busy one, mate. I know you've got your finger on the pulse of the nation right here. What do you think?
He's got his finger on the pulse of the nation.
Some of the first polling stations are closing already. What are your expectations for this election, Joe?
Well, I mean, the first indications, much like it was in 2020, is that President Trump is going to win this handedly. We saw this as the case. The problem is that we're still facing the same problems we had in 2020, and that's a non-transparent election system.
Yeah.
That, frankly, is riddled with issues. And the tells are out. I think that by telling us it's going to take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 days because people today can't count. COVID must have clouded the mind of every American. And so we need machines to take that over.
So again, this is the kind of thing where he's not wrong.
Yeah.
But you have to understand why they brought him on to say this. They didn't bring him on to say this to be a pro-Trump mouthpiece.
No.
They brought him on to say this to sow doubt in America's election system.
You bet.
Right? And it's fine for us or him even on his podcast to say, hey guys, be on the lookout for fraud. Be
Yeah.
on the lookout for funny
It's
business.
been his thing for a long time.
There's nothing wrong with that. But the minute you go on RT, they're not having him on to try and get a fraudless American election. They're having him on to sow doubt in the process.
Yeah. And that's yeah, keep going.
For us.
Yeah, I hear you, Joe. What about the Democrats? I've been reading reports that Democratic supporters and fanboys and all that, some of them are just having a nightmare day. They're absolutely terrified of what might be the result. Why are they so scared of this possible potential Trump result?
Well, I mean, it's the day of accountability. Like, we're going to get to the place where people are held accountable for their behavior over the last 4 years. It's not a victimless crime of what's happened in America.
Yeah.
Many lives have been lost, not just in the U.S. but abroad. And frankly, we need.
Whoa, lives lost abroad?
So there it is. It's fine to criticize what your government has done to its people. That's fine. But when you go on RT International and you're accusing the United States of killing people abroad, they're not having you do that, Joe, because they want America to get better. They're having you do that so that you can make people around the world hate America.
Yeah, it's like adding it's dissension in the ranks, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's meant there to divide America. And the crazy thing about all this is fame's a drug, Max. There's some people that chase fame and they'll go anywhere and anything to get fame. It's a hell of a drug.
Hell of a drug.
It's a hell of a drug.
We need to get to a place where we have sensibility and you can have strength through leadership. And I don't think we've had that for the last 4 years. Matter of fact, 32 out of the last 36 years have been run by the same cabal inside the United States. And so the fear is that President Trump's going to come in and right side that. Now you have Elon Musk, you have Bobby Kennedy, you have other people that are coming around that are setting aside Democrat, Republican, all of those kind of dog whistles to the side and saying, we need to make this about the American people. And if we
I mean, it's like a pro rant. It's like it's no different than what you get from it. It's a pro-America rant, but it's being used in a way to frame America as being evil. I mean, he doesn't know he's being a useful idiot. He just doesn't know.
He's a smart guy. I don't know why he's doing this. I don't understand. I'm genuinely confused.
Yeah.
I didn't go and search this out. I was researching this story about the GEC, and it's all Russia Today stuff. And I saw him. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what he's been doing. And Josh, it's like every couple weeks. It's just so weird. So I mean,
Oh,
I don't know if he's like a paid correspondent. I don't know what the deal is, but I just hope that one day he wakes up and realizes that it's not. If you love America and you want America to be as good and as just as it can be, you hurt that effort if you're the tip of the spear for Russia's international propaganda arm.
and think about other conservatives who go out there and want their voices to be heard. You know, other people start getting lumped into that pile, right? I mean, I don't think he's done much for the conservative cause since COVID. I mean, it's not what it was.
Joe was on with that. Like, it's wrong to lock people in their homes. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Like, it's wrong to close down schools. Absolutely. We should drag teachers behind our car until their limbs fall off. No, let's stop there.
That's right.
Let's
Let's
open the
just
schools.
right. Either way,
I don't know what his deal is. I just hope that I hope he gets back to the Joe that we knew pre-2022. I think that'd be good for everyone. All right, you see this Trump press conference?
which one? The one where he got a bunch of money from Stephanopoulos?
Was that no? He got that yesterday. he had
Yeah.
a press conference in, I guess it was Mar-a-Lago or Bedminster today.
Oh,
And it was pretty good. It's vintage Trump. It's what a stupid question, saying that to reporters, Trump. Let me pull up the video.
Iran's nuclear
Well, I can't tell you that. I mean,
Would you?
I mean, it's a wonderful.
So he's asking him, would you preemptively strike Iran? And like, would you, like, before Iran could strike us, would you take out their nuclear sites? And this is Trump's response.
Iran's nuclear
Well, I can't tell you that. I mean,
Would you?
I mean, it's a wonderful question, but how can I? Am I going to do preemptive strikes? Why would I say that? Can you imagine if I said yes or no? You'd say that was strange that he answered that way. Am I going to do preemptive strikes on Iran? Is that a serious question? How could I answer a question like that?
like it's Al Jazeera asking.
Yeah. He's so right. He's so right of like, why would I ever answer that question?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell them a preemptive strike is coming. Then it can't be a preemptive strike. And if I take that off the table and say I would never do that, then they'll think they have a longer leash.
Yeah.
It's just a very, very dumb question.
I mean, strength through silence and peace, right? Just knowing that he could. I like the idea that everybody thinks he's crazy enough to do just about anything, which is what they should realize is that, you know, what's that old statement from him? I will make your minuets or whatever glow green, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what a dumbass question, man.
Yeah. And so that whole like, oh, we want people to think he's crazy. That's a Ronald Reagan thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Madman theory. They wanted, Ronald Reagan and his team wanted the Russians to think he was one twitch away from launching the nukes. Wouldn't mess with them, right? Don't push them too far. That's a real thing. And so when Trump has tried to deploy it, the mainstream media, the left, has like undermined it, which has always shocked me. It's like they're not even smart enough to know like what he's doing. Also another clip from Trump condemning Biden and his administration for selling off the border wall, what we talked about on Friday. Here's that clip.
Is trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, knowing that we're getting ready to put it up. And what they're doing is really an act. It's almost a criminal act. They know we're going to use it, and if we don't have it, we're going to have to rebuild it, and it'll cost double what it cost years ago, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars because you're talking about a lot of wall. I built much more than I said I was going to build, but then after it was built, I said, you know, we can do some more because it's sort of like water, people flow through, and that will pretty much really take care of it. And what happened is they just, as you see, they're trying to sell it for 5 cents on the dollar, and that's really that has nothing to do with a smooth transition. That has to do with people really trying to stop our nation. And all it means really is that we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars more, not even talking about the time. Time would be pretty long, but we'll spend hundreds of millions of dollars more on building the same wall that we already have. And people have already come back to us that have deals at 5 cents and 4 cents, and one guy at 3 cents on the dollar.
Wow.
And they offered to sell it back to us at more money than it cost us to build substantially. Can you believe it?
We called
So
it. I mean, we knew it was going to happen.
United States to buy it for pennies. And then they call us and they say, do you want to buy it back? We'll sell it back to you for hundreds of dollars a foot. Hundreds of dollars, from pennies to hundreds of dollars a foot. And we can't let this take place. Now, we're going to go. I spoke with the Attorney General of Texas. I spoke to the senators of Texas. I spoke to a lot of people, and hopefully they'll be able to stop. We're going to be, having a restraining order. But
so
shocking.
I've done a lot of research on this, and I'm going to be on the radio later today. Don't even know what station talking about this. Is Biden doing this? Yes. Is the Biden administration doing this? Also, yes. Was it only Biden's idea? No. Was it only the Democrat Party's idea? Also, no. This is H.R. 2670, the National Defense Authorization Act, also known as the NDAA. It is the annual appropriations bill for the Defense Department. So every year, Congress has to pass like 12 different spending bills to fund the entire federal government. The NDAA is one of those mandatory ones. If they don't, there's a shutdown in the Defense Department. Soldiers don't get their pay. It's not pretty. So NDAA is a must-pass piece of legislation. This is section 2890. 2890 of the NDAA.
Oh my God.
A bill, you read here, who sponsored the bill?
Mike Rogers,
Mike
Democrat
Rogers.
from Alabama.
Alabama. This is a Republican-sponsored bill in a Republican-controlled House of Representatives.
In a what?
Republican-controlled House of Representatives.
Oh, that's what I thought you said. I'm just shocked.
In a Republican chamber. And here it is. The plan for use of excess construction materials on the southwest border. It says not less than 75 days after the date of enactment of this act, the Secretary of Defense shall submit to Congress a plan to use, transfer, or donate to states on the southern border of the United States all covered materials with prioritization given to the refurbishment and or maintenance of ports of entry along the southwest border and construction projects aimed at stopping illicit human and vehicle traffic along the border of the United States with Mexico. Now that sounds fine. Give it to the states who want to stop illegal border crossings.
But
40% went to the states. According to the Biden administration, the states didn't want the other 60%.
is that confirmed? I mean, that's crazy.
That's what they're
They
saying.
didn't want it?
So the plan has to have a detailed proposal for the disposition of such covered materials, an assessment of the condition, a description of materials that have depreciated in value, become damaged, or been lost. Any state requesting the covered materials made available under the section must certify in writing that the materials it accepts will be exclusively used for the refurbishment or maintenance of ports of entry along the southwest border or construction projects aimed at stopping illicit human and vehicle traffic along the border. Not later than 100 days after the date of submission of the plan required by subsection A, Secretary of Defense shall commence execution of such plan until the date on which the Department of Defense is no longer incurring any costs to maintain, store, protect the covered.
Oh my gosh, it's a fire sale. They put a fire sale in the middle of the Defense Authorization Act.
And so the reason they did this,
It's a
the
fire
reason
sale.
that Republicans did this, is because they looked at the cost and they said it is costing too much to store the border wall sections. We need to get rid of it.
Was it too much? How?
It was nothing. These were pieces of steel sitting in the dirt. There was no protection. They were just chilling there. We showed the pictures. I mean, like here's one of the
So, like a boneyard, it just sits there.
It's a
not
boneyard.
cost-
Now, not all of the land was owned by the federal government, so some of it was on private land. So they might have been paying
lease costs or
lease
something.
costs
Yeah.
to use the land. But
So-
it pales in comparison to how much was spent on these border wall sections.
Unbelievable.
So the Republicans said, "Oh man, we got to cut costs in the Pentagon. What are we going to cut? What are we going to do? We are going to force the government to sell pennies on the dollar the border wall section, and that's going to save us money." That was their argument. And I can tell you exactly who introduced this.
I want to know because I'm pissed. Because there's a reason we saved this. We were going to set it up when Trump got back in. We've already paid for it.
So I went through all of the minutes for the Rules Committee
Yeah.
in the House, and there were two congressmen who introduced an amendment for this section. And it was Congressman Strong and Congressman Burkeen. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Strong of Alabama, Burkeen of Oklahoma. And their amendment, which they were given 10 minutes to talk about, requires the Secretary of Defense submit to Congress a plan to use, transfer, or donate excess border wall construction materials and execute said plan until the Department of Defense is no longer incurring costs to maintain, store, or protect said materials. So the plan could have been, we're going to move all of the border wall from private land to public land. And that would have fixed the problem. That would have fixed the problem. Because they're not incurring any cost. They're just sitting in the dirt.
These are Republicans, though. Why would Republicans pick this as the place to save money? There's bigger fish to fry than the wall that was sitting there. Much bigger fish to fry. Why include this?
I don't know. And this is where it gets weird. I don't know. I don't think this is the final intent of it. I don't know if maybe the Defense Department said, "Oh, this is rusty. It's no longer usable," when it really wasn't. It was just like surface rust. I don't know what that was. Apparently, the Defense Department in their budget was claiming it cost $130,000 a day to let that steel just sit in the dirt. That, to me, I don't buy that.
That not for a second.
Not for a second.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous number. But again, we're talking about government waste here, right? Who knows what kind of crazy contracts they signed for it? So they could make the claim that it costs that much money.
The problem is that the amendment they wrote didn't prohibit a fire sale.
Oh,
right? Because this guy, Dale Strong, he was celebrating this. Here's the press release. He called it the Finish It Act. Finish the wall. So every penny that goes to the Department of Defense should be used to best prepare our men and women, protect the United States. President Biden's use of defense funds to indefinitely store unused border materials is an irresponsible misuse of resources during the ongoing crisis at the border and a pivotal time for national security. He thought that this would let states finish the border wall. Instead, what he did was open the door for the Biden administration to sell it for pennies on the dollar.
Holy shit. My God, unintended consequences, or was this the plan the whole time?
Yeah.
Is he just that dumb?
Basically, he said, shit or get off the pot. And the government said, okay, we'll get off the pot.
Yeah, we'll sell. We're out.
Yeah, we're out.
Oh my God. And it was bought at pre-inflation prices.
Yeah. Now
oh my God.
Now your head's turning a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, because it's going to cost, he said double. It might even be more, right? Because every day we wait, and then we have to get the contracts, and they have to go after the supplier again. It could be 3 years before somebody even comes to a place where they could start putting up border wall.
Yeah. So Congress is meeting today to pass a continuing resolution. Democrats are pressuring Congress to pass all of next year's funding. Basically say we're going to spend in 2024 and 2025 the same amounts that we spend in 2024, which would prevent Donald Trump from building a single inch of border wall. You understand? God. You starting to understand the game that's being played?
It's just, I mean, this is an all-out war. I mean, there is a group. The Democrats are hell-bent on not protecting the border. The one thing that matters to Americans the most. It's the number one thing that happened in the election that people were voting for. Holy crap, man. This is next level sort of fuck yous. I mean, sorry for the word, but that's what it is.
Yeah. This is Dale Strong's press release that he did. Today, House of Representatives passed a strong amendment during consideration for the National Defense Authorization Act. He said, during my trip to the southern border, I saw miles of construction materials rusting on the ground. The Biden administration's decision to let these materials go to waste has cost the Department of Defense over $300 million since 2021. Well, Dale Strong, since Donald Trump now needs to just rebuy this at post-inflation pricing, if Congress will even give him the money to do it, your amendment makes the country less safe, less secure, and will tie one arm behind Donald Trump's back. All because you thought it looked weird having stuff there. You shouldn't have even reminded him.
Yeah.
We went 4 years of Biden letting the border wall stuff stay there.
Right.
We were almost in the home stretch. You just had to be quiet.
This is just a couple months ago when they.
Trump was going to get into office and he was going to have hundreds of millions of dollars of border wall equipment just to put right up. But no, the fiscal conservatives had to go in and say, oh, we can't waste this money. We're going to waste money to stop wasting money.
What a slap in the face. And the worst part is when you have to double purchase. Because not only do we pay for it the first time, someone's going to buy it and sell it back to us. And that's been the intention. And we know it's going to happen because who wouldn't spend 5 cents on a dollar to make 95% profit?
Yeah,
what person wouldn't take that risk?
They're buying it for pennies a foot, and they want to sell it to us for over $100 a foot.
That's 3 levels of magnitude up. I mean, just it'd be worse than inflation. We'd be forced to get new pieces.
Yeah.
Unless the states step in and buy it. So have all these pieces sold already?
That's the other bit. Texas is like, oh, we will buy it. All Texas had to do is send a nice little letter. And then the Defense Department would have shown up with their little trucks and dropped it wherever Texas wanted it. So we played it last week of Texas's, what was it, deputy governor or whatever, lieutenant governor, saying we're going to fight this to tooth and nail. All you had to do is send a letter.
Yeah. Oh my God. The dumbest things ever, man. I don't even know what to say to all this.
And you can't even say it was a secret. It was a Republican amendment.
Just stupid it's kind of one of those mic drop moments. Like I cannot believe the level of stupidity in this amendment. Why do you want us to be seen as being fiscal? So are these guys famous for joining Democrats and other stuff? I mean, are they kind of rhinos? I mean, this is a power play of epic proportions, making sure that the wall doesn't go up. It was sitting there waiting to be used, and these guys suddenly throw it in like 9 months ago. What was the date on that? It was something 2023, right?
These are the same kinds of Republicans that had control of Congress for the first 2 years of Trump's presidency and didn't fund the wall. Like this, we don't just have to fight against Democrats. We have to fight against the conservatives. Any final words before we wrap up?
Oh my gosh. I don't know what to say after that. The waste is horrible, man.
Work hard.
I mean, you're just seeing it. It's
Work hard. Pay your taxes. We got to buy more border wall.
We got 2 years until another election. Primary people out, get them replaced. If you're not politically active now, it's going to be too late. Yeah, we're up against it, gang. This is final round. There's stuff in the skies. We can't put up a wall. Yeah. What else is left?
Trump says he knows what's in the sky. He says he knows, but he's not going to tell us. And the government should tell him. He says he knows.
Well, what is it? Just tell us. We can't handle it.
Here's the other thing. He is making a trip to New Jersey. So he obviously doesn't think it's that dangerous.
Yeah.
He did joke about maybe having to cancel the trip. So if he knows what they're all about and he's traveling to an area where they're flying over him, he doesn't believe like the rumors that there's a nuke missing somewhere in New Jersey.
Yeah. Right.
We'll have to see. That's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like the podcast, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We're on X. We go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So tune in for that. We also have the audio edition of the podcast, as I said earlier. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podbean, Audible, all great places. Subscribe. It'll auto-download on your phone, and you can listen as you go about your day, commute, whatever. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back the country is not over yet, but all we have to do is stand up and fight together. See you next time.